Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today, as you can see, I've got my M4 with me, and the reason I'm in my M4 is because I'm about to go and test drive the new M4 competition. And the reason I'm here with this is I've had this car for about 18 months and we all love the F80 M3, F82 M4, and I really want to give you guys my impressions as to what the new M4 competition drives like, what it feels like against something like this. So yeah, before we go and see the M4 competition, I'm going to take this car out and tell you things about this car that we all love. The F82 M4, I've had this car for about 18 months and quite honestly, I absolutely love this car. I am not bored of this car one little bit. Every time I'm out on my favourite country lane or just on the Sunday drive like the way I am today, this car always puts a huge smile on my face. And I think the way this car is just set up, this one has been tuned stage 1, so it's pushing around about 530 horsepower and around 600 odd newton meters of torque, probably even more than that. I do need to get this car on the dyno to get the official figures, which I'm hoping to do over the next couple of weeks, so definitely stay tuned for that if that's something that you are gonna be interested in. This car though, I think from everything, from the way the car drives to the gearbox to, apart from the steering's a little bit numb on this, that's just electric power steering for you guys in most modern cars. I just like this car. I know that with the M3 you do get like the wider body on the rear, whereas with this you do feel a little bit cheated. But personally I do like this. I think it's got a real nice sleek design. The interior does look a bit dated, I must say, because it is based on the F30 3 Series and the F32 4 Series, so that's the same from what I've seen with the new M4 as well. That's just based on the G20, G22 3 4 Series, so that's just the interior. But the way this car is so rev happy to drive, the gearbox is always eager to kind of like get the next gear for you or downshift without any delay. I just really think that it's a great setup. The only downside to having one of these cars is that it is quite frisky. It can get quite skittish on the rear end, and there's been loads of complaints about how tail happy this car is. But personally I think that makes this car what it is. It makes you want to drive this car. It puts you on that edge to drive this car and have your wits about you, because I really like that feeling of kind of being alive. I know it's a bit dangerous because you might end up in a ditch, but it makes you drive the car. You feel part of the car rather than the car driving you with like most modern cars. It'll be really interesting to see how the new M4 competition actually drives compared to this. From what I've read and from what I've seen so far is that the grip levels on that car, even for a rear wheel drive car, are quite immense, which is not a bad thing. I'm going to put this car into my favourite driving mode, which is M1, which puts the car into my favourite mode. So the steering is in comfort, because I really think that that's the best feedback that you get when the steering is in comfort in this. The dampers are in sport, and the throttle response or the engine response is in sports plus, and the gearbox is in manual mode. A lot of people don't really like the soundtrack of the S55, but I don't really mind it, to be honest with you. I kind of think it's decent. Yes, most of it is synthesized, but car really does always surprise me. And I think one of the main things that I want to try and get across in today's vid is, can I justify spending twice as much on the new car when you can actually get one of these for half the price of the new M3 M4 and whack a stage 1 tune onto them and get a similar power? See what I mean? It's a bit skittish. The back end was playful, and it's playful. That's the thing, it's playful. It's not like it's gonna kill you. It is playful, and I really do like that about this. The gear changes are just so sweet on this. They're just so instant. I did do like a DCT versus PDK as well, so you can go and check that video on the link above here. It's blisteringly quick, and you get a lot of that sense of speed, which, you know, really makes you feel like you're actually driving this car. Okay guys, so now I'm in the new M4 competition. This one is finished off in the Dravit grey, and it's got this nice orange interior. I think it really complements the exterior and the interior. I'm just in normal drive mode, and from the get-go the car does feel quite nippy compared to my M4. Now, I've always kind of said that with my M4 it always feels a little bit lethargic in normal drive mode until you stick it into its kind of either full attack mode or into the sports mode. This right now I'm just in normal efficient mode, which is the comfort mode in this car, and it does feel quite nice. It's got quite a high spec to this car, head-up display, Harman Kardon and all of the stuff, so you know it's got probably a few packages on it. This particular car has got a value of about 85 grand. Personally, I think that's quite ridiculous for an M4, even in competition form. The seats, I think they are quite comfortable. These are not the bucket shell seats, you know, with the carbon finishes. These are the standard seats, and I think as a daily, I think these seats are quite nice. Steering wheel is quite nice as well. These flappy paddles, I'm not too fond of these, and the reason I say that is although they are carbon, they got this kind of a rubbery plastic feel on the rear of them, which is a little bit odd. The engine, the S58 engine, I personally think it's a great engine. It's based on a B58, and we all know how powerful those engines are. This obviously has then been tuned by M, so it's got the S designation, so therefore it's the S58. It has, in this form, 510 horsepower, 650 newton meters of torque, which is plentiful. You know, compared to the outgoing car in competition form, it was 450 and 550 newton meters of torque. The car is quite heavy as well, so I'm going to throw it around some corners and kind of see how it really handles those, and whether, you know, it kind of like understeers, or, you know, let's just see how it sort of plays out. One thing I've noticed in the normal drive mode is that this gearbox, the outgoing car has a double clutch gearbox, which I think is phenomenal. This is the ZF8, and yes, you have got the, you know, little button on it as well to kind of change the ferocity. So yeah, let's see how that kind of pans out. But I do think that from the get-go there's a little bit of a delay in it, and when you're shifting gears as well, it's smooth, which is a nice thing, but I don't think it gives you that whole connectiveness with the old car did. So maybe, you know, with the new M4, BMW are just kind of upping the game a little bit and making it a bit more refined, but with that you are losing that whole kind of drivability. And also when you're trying to kick down just there, I mean just in normal comfort mode, when you're kicking down, it's a little bit of a delay. So I'm now going to stick the car into its M1 mode, which I believe is set up so that the chassis is in sport, engine is in sport, gearbox is still in drive. I mean, it gets down the road quite well, but I'll be honest, I mean, my car is stage 1 and that's pushing out like 530 horsepower. It doesn't feel electrically fast, if I'm honest. I'll stick the car into manual mode as well. There certainly is a delay when you're pulling on the pedals to either shift down or shift up, and how quick it changes gear. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but it certainly isn't a double clutch, and you can always feel that. The car itself though, you know, the sound, I don't really have any complaints from the S55 engine personally, because I know a lot of people were saying that it doesn't sound that great, but you know, you were comparing that to a V8 before, whereas this is like a like for like, you know, a straight 6 twin turbo versus a straight 6 twin turbo. I actually prefer the sound of the S55 rather than the S58 personally. I'm going to put the car into its full attack mode, into S3 mode in terms of the gearbox. It is quite safe, I think, you know, when like you're just pushing on there, you don't really get like the tail happiness coming out on this car. So I think from a point to point, this car is definitely quick. It is like a quick car when you're looking at it from a stock point, stock M4, stock M4 G82. I think it is definitely a quicker car. It definitely gives you more confidence because it's much more safer. But the gearbox, definitely is a little bit slower. And another thing I've just noticed as well is that with the S55, you feel like you want to rev that car out. It's got like a rev happy nature to it. The revs just take a bit of time to build up. Personally, at 85 grand, I really don't think it's worth buying one of these at this price point. If this was more like say 60k, 65, it's probably worth it, but at this price point I don't think I'd be jumping to the gun. So the interior of this car is quite a nice place. To be honest with you, it's the same as any 3 Series or a 4 Series with a splash of carbon around it. I mean, I had the G20 and the interior is very similar to that in terms of touch points. The steering wheel is a little bit different because you got carbon around it, and you got the M1 and the M2 buttons, which is quite a nice touch. The virtual cockpit is the same as, well, I had that coded, to be honest with you, in my G20 at one point, and then I reverted it back to its standard settings. But yeah, that's something that you can just get coded in anyway. But I must say, I mean, the car just feels solid. It is quite a nice feeling sitting behind, you know, the wheel of this. But I do stand by, and I do kind of think that, you know, this price point is still a little bit too expensive for an M4. Personally, I I do like the design of this car. It is a bit bigger than the old car, and I mean the front end, to be honest with you, on this type of a color, I think the grills are quite disguised. If you're going for, like, say, some of the brighter colors, then I think the front end could be quite, you know, loud for you guys. I don't personally mind the big grills on the front. You know, that's just something we like BMW's bold designs, and if I'm quite honest, I've had some bold design cars in my car history, so personally I don't really mind that. One thing that I'm not fond of is the bonnet. Like with all previous M3s and M4s, you always have like that bonnet bulge or the bonnet dome. With this sitting behind the wheel here, you don't really see that. Yes, you've got, like, you know, the kind of carvings out and stuff like that on the front end of the bonnet, which is probably like I say, like another sort of a design feature, but I would personally want to have that bonnet dome on the front end. Overall, what do I think of this car then? I think it all comes down to the price point. I can't justify spending, you know, 85, 90 grand. And there you go, there's such a delay there with that ZF gearbox, and as I was saying, I can't justify spending 85, 90k. This car in this spec is about 90k's worth. That much on the M4. And the power as well, although it's, you know, 500 odd horsepower, take the current or the previous F80, F82 M3, M4, stick a stage 1 on it and you'll have more horsepower than this anyway. It does get down the road quite well, but I do feel that there's not much engagement in this drive. The gearbox is very smooth. The drive inspires you with a lot of confidence. It's not very tail happy, which is a good thing, but if you really want to drive the car, then you get more of a driving sensation out of the F80 and the F82 M3 and M4. I mean, this is something that, you know, anyone can really just jump into and drive, you know, without it intimidating you. And personally, I like driving the F82 M4 because there's always that time when you just feel like alive behind the wheel. Whereas with this, yeah, it's a fast car, but personally, I'll just take the F82, stick a stage on that, and remap. I actually felt the car just kind of understeer there. I mean, I was pushing it quite a bit there as well, but I just found it understeering quite a bit. I've just noticed this being a competition pack, you know, you got the tri-colours on the seat belts. I had that in my 320 diesel on the G20. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed this content, giving you, you know, my impressions with on this car. If you have enjoyed it, give it a like, share, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section below. You know, talk to me about what you think of the design, what you think of like how this car is. If you've driven one, what do you feel about it? And hopefully guys, I'll see you on the next one. Take care, bye.